Hey, how's it going? I'm still alive. Hello again, everybody. It is Brandon. I have returned from a 2-month long hiatus. I know it's been a while. I could give you the whole spiel about how I'm sorry that it's been a while since I posted a video, blah, 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 but I'm not going to do that today. All I'll say is that basically the last 2 months I did not really have much motivation to make a YouTube video because it's a lot of work and I've just been very tired. That's pretty much it. But I've seen a lot of movies that I want to give my full in-depth thoughts on, and the first one that I'm going to be reviewing will be in this video, and possibly the biggest movie of 2024, Deadpool and Wolverine. Deadpool and Wolverine is, I guess, technically the third installment in the Deadpool trilogy because Deadpool 1 and 2 were both made by Fox. And this is Deadpool's introduction into the MCU, and in it we follow Deadpool himself, Wade Wilson, as he faces an existential threat. When he wants to be an Avenger and introduce himself into the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he must choose between that dream or sacrificing his own timeline in the process. And to save his timeline, he teams up with a variant of Wolverine played by Hugh Jackman. Deadpool and Wolverine is the only MCU movie that we're getting this year, and to that I say, hallelujah. If you guys know me or you've been keeping up with anything that I have to say on any platform, you will know that I have been very critical of the MCU in recent years. I think the MCU is in such a horrible place at the moment because they've just been making so much slop. And it's become painfully obvious to me and several others that they prioritize quantity over quality. Because in my opinion, since Endgame, there has only been one truly fantastic MCU movie, that being Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 from last year. A movie that I love so much it was my runner-up for my favorite movie of 2023. And even though I've been very critical of the MCU, I was still really looking forward to Deadpool and Wolverine because, like most people, I am a big fan of the first Deadpool and Deadpool 2. But I still tempered my expectations just a little bit because with movies like this, I feel like if I get them a little bit too high, I'm just begging to be disappointed. And even though I did temper my expectations quite a bit, I still walked out of Deadpool and Wolverine feeling utterly disappointed. That is not me saying that this is a bad movie, but it most certainly isn't great. It's not even like a top 20 MCU movie, and it's most certainly not the best MCU movie, as some people have said. And the biggest reason that I think this movie did not resonate with me as much as I was hoping it would is because the story is so weak. And I know what you're thinking, we don't go to Deadpool movies for story, we just go for the action and the blood. And while I agree with you slightly, the first two Deadpool movies, while the stories were a little bit shallow, they were still somewhat interesting. And I didn't find the story in this movie interesting at all, which is a damn shame because I think that this movie has a phenomenal idea. As I said, the central conflict in this movie involves Deadpool having to choose between his loved ones and his dream. Does he join the MCU and become an Avenger while sacrificing his world in the process? Or does he sacrifice his dream and stay with his loved ones living a very unfulfilled life? I really think that that is a great idea, especially for a character like Deadpool, but it seems like this movie just completely forgets about that and doesn't really expand upon it. And the reason it glosses over this fantastic story idea was what I was most afraid of. It prioritizes its litany of cameos over the story. This movie has a ton of cameos, as everyone was anticipating it would. And don't get me wrong, I like cameos as much as the next guy, but if that is your movie's main focus, then I feel that you have lost everything that you were trying to achieve. Because without getting into spoilers, just in case you haven't seen this movie yet, a lot of the cameos are from the Fox Marvel universe. And it was nostalgic for me because I grew up watching those movies, so I was like, wow, it's really cool to see that character again. But every time there's a cameo, the movie feels like it comes to a complete stop. Again, I won't get into spoilers, but there is literally a scene where a bunch of different characters are introduced, and the movie just completely halts to do it. One person comes in, then the next, then the next, and then the next. And I'm like, okay, yes, this is cool, but it feels like this movie is doing a lot of meandering. And that's precisely what it did, especially with the scene that I just named specifically. All the characters are kind of just sitting around and having a conversation that doesn't really progress the plot in any way, and honestly, a lot of it really wasn't that funny, even though it was trying its damnedest to be as funny as possible. And that's another thing that really disappointed me with this movie. The humor in a lot of parts just did not resonate with me. But it wasn't just Deadpool and Wolverine, because in preparation for this movie, I rewatched Deadpool 1 and 2, and there were quite a few jokes in those movies that I did not even crack a smile at, that I know for a fact I laughed at when I first watched those movies. And I think the reason for that, without sounding like I'm on my high horse, is that I grew up. I really think I just got older and wiser and my sense of humor changed. But I realized that Deadpool has a shtick, and to me, it seems like I don't find that shtick funny anymore, and the novelty has kind of worn off. And as a result, as much as it pains me to say it, I feel like these movies won't really resonate with me anymore in the long run. Another really disappointing part of this movie were the action sequences. The action isn't bad because there are a lot of really good scenes in this movie where characters are fighting, but there's also a lot of really badly directed, shot, and just overall underwhelming fights. Specifically, one fight that was in the trailer that was teased to be this gigantic, grandiose sort of fight. And I'm not kidding you, this wasn't even a fight, because these two characters go at each other and one dies instantaneously, so it lasts maybe 2 seconds. But there are some fun and creative action sequences, but I think the biggest problem is that Shawn Levy, the director, just doesn't have an eye for directing action. Compared to the action sequences in Deadpool 2, that movie was directed by David Leitch, who's a really good action director. And the action sequences in Deadpool and Wolverine pale in comparison to Deadpool 2. And that's another reason why I think Deadpool 2 is the best Deadpool movie, but go argue with a wall. Deadpool and Wolverine also falls into a category that a lot of MCU movies have fallen into recently. This movie is just so ugly to look at. In terms of the CGI, the cinematography, and the color grading, all of it just wasn't really aesthetically pleasing. Like I mentioned before, the way this movie is shot, especially during a lot of the action sequences, was just plain stupid. Because the scenes were filmed almost like a commercial, and there is a huge commercial emphasis in this movie because of these constant jokes about a Honda Odyssey. You would think that this movie was directed by Michael Bay with such shameless product placement. But when you add bad cinematography and colors, along with just terrible CGI in parts, yeah, this movie is just ugly to look at. I wish that it was a lot prettier and more colorful. But the whole look of it just seems so stale. All that being said, I do not think that Deadpool and Wolverine is a bad movie because there were quite a few things about it that I enjoyed. I think Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman have fantastic chemistry with one another and they play off of each other very well. Although I will say it's almost unfair how much of a better actor Hugh Jackman is compared to Ryan Reynolds. Because I've said this in the past, I do not think Ryan Reynolds is a very good actor at all. He just plays the same character in everything he's in. He has absolutely no range. I'm sorry, but that is the truth. So when he's next to Hugh Jackman, who's an Oscar-nominated actor and has given fantastic performances in so many fantastic movies, it really is a night and day difference. Even though I had gripes with this movie's action and humor, I did still think that the action was very entertaining and bloody in parts. And the humor did make me laugh occasionally. I just didn't laugh as much as I would have liked. I was just hoping for a bit more because I truly believe that Deadpool and Wolverine had the potential to be a top 5 MCU movie for me personally. But like I said, this movie probably isn't even in my top 20. And that is such a shame because I feel like this is truly a billion-dollar idea. I mean, this movie's gonna make $1 billion, so it doesn't really matter what I say, but I feel like it could have been so much better. Such a good story idea was wasted in favor of cameos and trying to balance all these different characters at one time, and it was just so messy. Underwhelming action, not so funny humor, bad direction, bad cinematography, terrible CGI, and I guess you get Deadpool and Wolverine. A movie with so much potential that I truly wanted to love, but I walked out of that theater just shaking my head. And as a result, I truly believe that Deadpool and Wolverine is far and away the weakest Deadpool movie of the three. I don't know, man. Like I said, the novelty of this character has just worn off for me. It doesn't really hit the same anymore. If you love this movie, though, I'm happy that you do, because there's been a lot of discourse about it, and I fully understand why people do love this movie. It just wasn't for me, okay? I didn't love it, so respect others' opinions. Overall, I give Deadpool and Wolverine a 6 out of 10. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching my review of Deadpool and Wolverine. If you guys saw this movie, let me know what you thought about it. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did it meet your expectations, or were you disappointed by it? And where does this movie rank among the other MCU movies for you? If you guys like this review, be sure to hit that thumbs up and do not forget to subscribe. If you want to see my previous reviews, I will link those right over here. Other than that, I hope you all have a tremendous rest of your day. I will see you all next time.